today we're going to be reviewing the Walking Dead Here's Negan board game. So the Walking Dead Here's Negan board game is for 1 to 5 players. It is like this dungeon crawl. You play as survivors trying to gain Negan's favor as you try to secure the sanctuary and get reputation points. And yeah, I was kind of curious once Mantic made this announcement as far as what this game was going to be about. Now that I've got it in my hands and I've played it, I'll show you a little bit of what the gameplay is like, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. So this is just a basic setup of the Here's Negan board game. This is just the intro scenario, just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. You're going to have tiles that are going to be laid out. The ones in scenarios later on down the road, they are bigger, so they're more than just these 4 tiles. It's just the scenario that they give just to kind of teach folks the basics of the game. The object of the game is to get Negan to an exit point. You're basically going to be playing as survivors, clearing out a level of this building to try to gain as much reputation and to be the favorite of Negan before the scenario is over, before Negan gets to the end. The way this game works is there is the survivor phase. The survivors will all activate. There is a little plastic Lucille bat that signifies the first player. But you can actually play any character in any order that you want. So even though this is just to signify, some cards and effects have an effect for the first player. Basically, you're going to activate your character by putting the little X by it, saying that you've activated it. If you've played the Walking Dead All Out War miniatures game, there are going to be some similar elements to this game that are very similar to the Walking Dead All Out War miniatures game. Each character has stats, which you will see. You've got a fight, which is a red die, a shoot, which is a white die, and a defense, which is a red die. All of the survivors have different die for each statistic. You have your hit points, and then most survivors come with 2 pieces of equipment. Some of them only come with 1, but if you have any kind of equipment, it also adds dice to your basic stats. So with this, if you were to use a knife in melee combat with Dwight, you would roll 2 red die because he has a red fight and a red die for the knife. So what you're going to do is you're going to activate your heroes. There's 5 of them. There's one that's off screen that you can't quite see. John. They all kind of have their own individual skills as well. Like Laura can perform the same action twice in her activation. Dwight can actually move 4 spaces instead of 3 with his movement. And then he can also re-roll a die, to the black die, to see if he causes noise, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. Tara, when her defense beats a zombie's attack, she gets to immediately make a melee attack against one walker. And then Sherry actually can command other survivors to do an action that she hasn't done yet. And then John's just a big bruiser guy. So you're going to activate these one at a time. So let's just go down right through. Well, you can do 2 actions. You can either do a move, which is 3 spaces. You can run, which is 3 spaces plus a roll of the blue die. So that would mean that you would add 2 more to the 3, so you would do 5. But you would also have a chance to cause some noise. So you would roll a black die, and if you rolled a shield, you would create noise. The noise attracts zombies, of course, and also moves the threat meter up 1. If you are familiar with the Walking Dead All Out War miniatures game, you'll know that the threat meter is something that kind of escalates the tension as the game goes on. The more this arrow moves up, the more intense and more bad things happen. Also, once you get past 18 on the threat meter, it's an automatic end of the game, and you've pretty much considered you've been overwhelmed by zombies, and that's it. So you definitely don't want it to get past 18. So let's just talk about the other actions that survivors can do. They can move, they can fight. So if they are adjacent to a walker, they can do their fight. If they have a ranged weapon, they can then use their ranged attack to, as long as they have line of sight to that walker. They can also hold your nerve, which is another similar mechanic from the Walking Dead All Out War Managers game, where you can just roll a black die, and if you roll a shield, it bumps down the threat meter by 1. You can search if there, as soon as you open a room, you'll see there are different supply tokens that get put in place, and maybe some walkers. But you'll see that once we get going here. I'll do a couple rounds of play here in just a little bit. You can also secure a room. Basically, you're going to want to go through in all of these rooms that are locked or shut, that you haven't gone through. They all have these unsecured tokens on them. In order to secure them, you have to free them from any walkers. Plus, you have to roll white dice equal to or greater than the current threat. And if you'll see on this threat meter, there are certain icons on here, depending on where the threat level is, that you can secure. You have to get that many on the white die in order to secure a room. Now, the white die only has a few sides that have 2 on them. So the most you're going to be able to do with 1 white die is 2. So how do you get more than 2? Well, the one thing that you can do is you can, as soon as you're in a room, if you have another person in the room with you, they add 1 white die. So if you have 1, if you have 2, that'd be 2 more white die, and then you would roll them. And sure enough, I've got 4. That would be enough to secure that room. Once you secure that room, you gain reputation. And then you have more than 1 person in the room when you secure it. The person that does the secure roll gets reputation up to the amount of the current secure rating, and then everyone else in that room also gets 1 reputation point. And we'll talk about reputation points here in a second. The other action that you can do is break and enter, and basically roll the black die, and if you try to unlock a locked door. There are some doors that have little lock symbols on them that you can't freely open up. Otherwise, you can just open a door for free. But if they are locked, then you have to break the door. That causes noise, and basically you have to roll the black die. Causes noise. If it's shield, then it's a success and you open the door. You can call Negan. So as you are on the map, of course, Negan is going to be coming out, and you can call Negan, and Negan goes three spaces. You really don't want Negan to get ahead of you, because if he encounters any walkers, then that's bad news, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit too. You can also extinguish, which removes fire from an area, and you can also recover stamina and swap items. So let's just start out. We'll do a couple turns, and we'll show you how this all works. So we'll say we'll activate Laura. Laura is this character right here. There are 5 survivor sculpts. Each one is unique. And let's just say Laura is going to move into this room. So she's going to go 1, open the door for free, 2, and then we're going to open this door here. So she's gone 2 of her 3 so far. We can, there should be an unlocked token in here. We can go in here first if you want, if that makes sense. We then draw a room card once we've opened a room up. and we see what it says. So dead inside, it is 1 supply token. We're going to put 1 supply token here. And then based on the threat level, we add walkers to this room. So it's all quiet, so we would roll 1 red die and add that many walkers. Usually you put the walker right on the unsecure marker and then add any adjacent to those walkers. She has now done her first action. Her second action is going to be to shoot this walker, and so she's got a rifle and a shoot ability, so she's going to be blue and white. So you roll a blue and white die. She does 3 damage. The walker does have a red die as a defense, which is 0. So she rolled 3 damage, but none of them had an exclamation point on the side. So all it does is it causes the walker to be prone. If she had gotten an exclamation point, that would have gone right off the board, and then Laura would have gotten 1 experience point. So that's her 2 actions. Now we'll activate Dwight. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then for his second action, he'll just stomp this zombie, which he doesn't need to roll for since it's pretty much helpless. It's just laying there on the ground. He's going to get 1 experience point for that. Now what we'll do is we will activate Terra. Terra is this one right here. Now let's just run with Terra just to show how that works. We're going to roll a blue die. So we're going to go 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 right into here. We'll see if it causes any noise. It does, since it's a shield, so that's going to bump up that. That also would have caused any walkers, or walker tokens to move closer to the noise. This is a walker token. You'll see those come on the board every once in a while. There's different points where they come onto the board, and once they get into line of sight, they flip over and they show you how many walkers are going to be taking that token's place. So her first action is to run. Her second action is going to be to secure the room. So now that this room is unsecured, she's going to take a white die, and since Laura and Dwight are both in it with her, they're going to roll 2. We're looking for 1 success because that is the all good portion of the threat meter. We rolled 3, so that means that room is now secure. Terra gains 1 reputation because that's what's on the threat meter, and then Dwight bumps up to 2. Terra bumps up to 1 because they were in the room and helped secure that room. And you just keep going until all the survivors have had a chance to use their 2 actions. Once all the survivors have taken their actions, that's when the walker phase comes into play. What you're going to do is you're going to draw an event. You're going to read the card. Basically, there's a whole bunch of different bad effects that happen in this deck. And then all of the walkers are going to move in towards any of the survivors, the tokens as well, and then they would battle if they're adjacent to any survivors. After the walker phase comes the Negan phase, and the Negan actually has his own deck as well. After the first turn, Negan just comes on the board, and then he does have life as well. He's got 6 stamina, so you definitely don't want him to lose any health because that is bad. But then once the Negan phase happens, there's a card that you reveal, and it tells how many spaces he's going to move. This one, it says, let Lucille protect you, move 2 spaces, reduce the threat by a red die, and then Negan removes blue die, walkers within 3 spaces from play. That is actually a really good card. A lot of these are not all that good. And also, if Negan ever gets stopped for any reason at all, whether it's a walker in his way, a survivor in his way, or an unsecured room, he rages out, and it's not good. The person with the highest rep loses blue die worth of rep, and they also, everyone within 3 spaces loses 1 stamina. He just kind of goes crazy and starts, hitting people with his Lucille. If there are no survivors in range, Negan causes noise, so he's going to bring more walkers in. And if he is in an unsecured room, he leaves via the shortest route as well. And then you don't resolve any of the card text. It's really, really bad when that happens. Basically, you don't want that to happen as much as possible because it's not fun. Once that happens a couple times, you really can't bounce back from that. So as you go along, you are going to be securing rooms. As you go, you're going to be fighting walkers that populate, and then if you ever come into line of sight of one of these tokens, these walker tokens, you would put that many walkers on the board and replace the token. And basically, you just have to clear a path. Your 5 survivors just clearing a path for Negan to get to the end. And that's kind of the basics of the game. There are a few more other rules that kind of come into play. But that kind of gives you a brief overview of how the game works. Basically, you're trying to get Negan through the floor. So that's the basics of the Here's Negan board game. You're basically trying to clear a path for Negan by securing rooms, taking out zombies, and gaining as much reputation as you can, all while trying not to get that threat meter past 18. It's incredibly thematic. It is just another way to play in this Walking Dead universe that Mantic has been able to put out with their miniatures games. If you are a fan of the Walking Dead All-Out War miniatures game, I'm going to tell you that you're probably going to want to pick up this game just because there's more zombies to paint and to add to your zombie horde. 2, you're going to have more survivors to use. Now, the survivors that come with the game don't have character cards for the All-Out War miniatures game, but I'm sure you can probably find them online. I know Mantic had a pre-order special where if you pre-ordered the game through them, they would send you the character cards to use these characters in the All-Out War miniatures game. I'm sure you'll probably be able to find the cards anyway online. Component-wise, it's great. There's a little bit of fiddliness with the character cards and the little tokens, but it's nothing horrible. The minis are great. They're actually really solid PVC minis. There are some thin spots on some of the minis, and all of mine came really, really straight. I'm a big fan of the Walking Dead minis from Mantic. Yeah, the one downside I'm probably going to tell you is that I don't think that there's maybe a lot of variety in this game just because of the way it works. You're basically going to be doing the same things over and over again. So if you're playing this campaign mode, which it does have, you're going to probably be doing the same thing over and over again. I don't know if there's enough to keep you going and playing scenario after scenario after scenario. I don't think that I would play this more than 2 scenarios at a time, because after then it would just kind of feel like I was doing the same thing over and over again, despite the fact that the board's set up a little bit differently. But that's not a knock. That's not a huge knock. I think that's okay, because you don't want to wear yourself on a game anyway. I can see myself playing this 2 scenarios and then maybe putting it on the shelf for a month and then going back to it. And slowly over time, I would probably play the campaign mode. Campaign mode is really great. The more reputation that you end the game with, the better off you are going into the next scenario. If you are the person with the most reputation at the end, you usually get some sort of +1 action for next round that you can use. So you definitely want to do as well as you can as far as the reputation is concerned going into campaign play. Yeah. Other than that, I think if you're a solo board gamer, you definitely want to check this game out. It has some great gameplay, and it's really, really intense, especially once that threat meter gets way up there. It gets really intense. You're going to have a lot of pressure to use your actions the best you can, because otherwise you're just going to get overrun and you're not going to survive. So that's my take on The Walking Dead Here's Negan board game. Go check it out from Mantic Games. If you like this video, please give it a like down below. If you are a Walking Dead fan like I am, please let me know in the comments and leave a comment and tell me what your favorite character from The Walking Dead is. And then if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. We do all sorts of actual plays, reviews, and interviews on this show. We would love to have you as part of our community. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. My name is Doug. This has been Victory Condition Gaming, because winning shouldn't be the only victory condition when you get to the table. We'll see you next time.